in the tech industry, we spend an awful lot of time talking about, thinking about, writing about our phones. We saw that this week with Apple's big conference. Everyone's concerned about what's happening on the phone. I think the irony, though, is that so much of what happens on our phone does not happen on our phone. It happens across the internet somewhere in a giant data center that none of us really see. And in a lot of ways, what is happening inside those giant data centers is changing more quickly and in more interesting ways than what's happening on that client device. That's why I'm glad to talk to Diane. Diane is at the heart of that world. Diane was the co-founder and CEO of a company called VMware, which really reinvented the way data centers worked over the last decade. And now she's running the cloud computing group at Google, which is kind of the next wave of this revolution. In essence, Google has built this worldwide infrastructure, a network of data centers across the globe to run its own organization. And now what it's doing is it's offering that up to others and allowing other businesses to run their operations, their websites, their software, et cetera, on Google infrastructure. It's part of a big change in the company. Diane, about 2 years ago, I was talking to one of your colleagues, Urs Hotzley, who's the man most responsible for that data center empire.
Yeah, he's employee number 7. I
yes,
think.
Exactly. He's a fascinating guy, but one of the things he told me, even 2 years ago, he said, and this is a big statement because Google fundamentally is an advertising company. Over 90% of its revenues come from advertising. And he said that one day, cloud computing could be a bigger business for Google than ads. That's quite a statement, and he has continued to say this. When you took over, there was another big event where he basically said this would happen. What do you think? Is that opportunity as enormous as Urs says?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, public cloud is where everything is going to run because it's more secure and you can benefit from someone else's innovation and focus your innovation on your core competence, and there's just a whole host of reasons. There's you can put huge amounts of data together and do machine learning on them and all kinds of reasons, and the IT industry is like over $1 trillion industry, and if all that's moving to the cloud, it means that there's pretty big opportunity. We're pretty early in it, actually. As big as it already is, we're kind of early in it. Right. Yeah.
You're right. We are early in a sense, but in another sense, this is something that has been around for a while. It's an old idea. It really kind of came to the fore about a decade ago, and for many years, there was a lot of skepticism in the industry even. And a lot of people questioned whether or not we would really run things in this way. But suddenly, I think that last year there was a big inflection point. It's not just Google that's moving in this direction. Amazon, Microsoft, so many startups, and a lot of that skepticism has dissipated. Now, why is that?
Yeah, I mean, the cloud's been around. I mean, like Google's 16 years old. We started in the cloud, but I think two things happen. I was just thinking about it this morning in talking with a customer. I think Amazon started talking about their revenues, and people went, whoa, this is a big business. And then I think the other thing that happened is, security is just front of mind for every company, every member of board of directors, you name it, and and everybody kept saying, I'm not going to move to the cloud. I got to make sure my data is secure. And all of a sudden they went, whoops. Google's got 600 plus security engineers full time. All they do is work on security, protecting, Google's 7 billion plus active user apps and all their data. So when you have that kind of scale working on security, people realize that the cloud is the public cloud, the big public clouds are the most secure place to be. Right. And so to go from thinking you can't go there because it's not secure enough to suddenly realizing it's more secure, I think opens it up.
Right. It's interesting, a lot of that skepticism of the cloud was driven by kind of these old school IT players, the Dells, of the world, even VMware, the company you founded, they were kind of instrumental in saying this isn't necessarily going to happen as quickly. I mean, part of it's the innovator's dilemma, but is there something that they could have done differently, in years past? Because it's funny how Amazon and Google has kind of leapfrogged those companies to this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, some of them went out to build a public cloud, but just found they were a little bit late, and the scale. I mean, Google spent $10 billion in CapEx last year. I mean, the scale. HP had to pull out because it's a very big undertaking and it takes it's hard. It's not. I mean, Google. Every time we build a data center, we change it and refine it, and these things are huge. They're football fields long of, all over the world. So I think, that the reality that the cloud is happening and suddenly happening so fast, yes, it's faster than everybody expected. And you see a lot of people saying, okay, well, I'm going to support a hybrid cloud and I'm going to support the software. And there will be a long tail, but on-prem infrastructure is going to be a shrinking industry for sure. Yeah.
But I think the flip side of that dynamic is that Google traditionally was a consumer company. The way it worked was they offered consumer applications, and then they sold ads against those. And like I said, that's how they make 90% of their revenues. Now, in this business, it doesn't work that way. You are part of it's self-service. I can just go on to a Google Cloud service, start using it, put in a credit card. But with these very big companies that you definitely want to go after, these big enterprise companies, you're selling to them. It's a different dynamic. It does seem that you really have to change the culture of the company in some ways. Is that the case?
Yeah, I haven't so much felt it as a cultural change as much as an organizational change. So Google Cloud's been serving Google internally. So it's done a lot of things right, like build for scalability, build for reliability, build for security. But building for Google engineers, it didn't maybe have to be quite as usable. Maybe it didn't need all the regulatory, all the compliance. And so those things were definitely aggressively addressing, and pretty much, we didn't need as much around identity and access management. But we've got that stuff out there. But organizationally, it's a whole new game when you really support a big enterprise customer. And actually, it's not same old enterprise, because you're not selling a product and saying, okay, enjoy my product. You're saying, okay, let's work together. You put your products on this cloud and we'll help you run them really well. And as you come out with new products, we'll help you figure out how to optimize them. And as we come out with new innovations, we'll help you take advantage of that. So it's a whole new enterprise model, but like the old enterprise model, organizationally, you have to build the groups that can meet the customer and help the customer and the partners. Yeah.
From the outside, it seems to be one of the reasons that you in particular put it into place, right? You had this history of VMware, which sold in that way. I mean, are there lessons from VMware that you learned when it came to balancing that engineering side with the sales side that apply to the Google Cloud group and how you're kind of shaping it?
Well, I think, engineering is how you build the greatest products, and engineering is how you invent these massive innovations and keep going forward. So the role of I joke sometimes with the engineers, and I have the same joke for the sales, but the engineers, you say, well, we could shut you down and they could keep selling, but then you tell the salespeople, well, we could, but then you wouldn't have anything to sell, right?
Yes.
And you wouldn't have the great new products. But so there's, engineering needs to bring out, working with product management, the features that the customers need and maintain the excellence of the products. But they need to spend a good chunk of their time on innovation and inventing what's next, because, we're on such a steep curve right now. and everything is just changing, and so you got to, like we just introduced a processor for running machine learning an order of magnitude faster, things like that you want to have in the pipeline always, moving the world forward, and yet sales needs to understand what the engineers are doing. So one of the things we did at VMware was we always found vehicles to let our engineers go out and be with the customers and let the customers, let them get together, and great things happen when the engineers and the customers can get together. So, and our engineers, I mean, they're all about having impact, so they're pretty excited. We've got this hugely expanded audience now. And everybody's pretty excited to get out there and see what our customers are doing and where they have problems and how they might invent, sort of leapfrog new solutions to their problems, as well as fix the things that are a little bit difficult.
Some people feel like in this market that those older IT players, Microsoft, for instance, which is one of your chief competitors, might have an advantage here because they have these existing relationships with these enterprises that date back so many years. And if their technology is good enough, that they have this foundation that they can build on that a Google doesn't have. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it's certainly having a massive footprint out there doesn't hurt.
Right.
But what we didn't have a massive footprint at VMware. We started from nothing. And we own the virtualization market, so it's really about the value you're bringing customers. I mean, obviously, the more you can partner and go to market with a big ecosystem, the easier it is to reach and support everybody. And so definitely we're doing that. But it's a new time in the enterprise because the pace of change is so rapid.
Right.
And the companies, all the companies are coming to us. They want to hear, about Google's innovations. They want to hear how Google moves so quickly, and they want to be able to take advantage of it. And sort of one of the riskiest things you can do is not start taking risks and changing more rapidly.
Right.
And we have things like machine learning happening. It's just changing every industry. And so it's a time when the enterprise is getting more aggressive about adapting to new ways of doing things than's ever been the case before.
This week we had a big acquisition, Microsoft and Greene to acquire LinkedIn.
Biggest acquisition ever.
And it got me thinking, they acquired LinkedIn for ostensibly different reasons, but given that Google is a consumer company and you're still in a way adjusting to the enterprise world, could that be a way in for Google? Do you think about acquiring, an enterprise company, so to speak, that has those existing relationships? Is that something that's a possibility?
Well, I'm not sure LinkedIn would have given us.
No, it's right. No, it's not. It wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. It's for different reasons. Reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, are there?
We were thinking of acquiring Oracle. No, I'm just
kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke. Got it. You mentioned several times machine learning, and you alluded to this new processor that Google's built. It's kind of indicative of the way Google operates. In some cases, in order to build this data center empire, actually in many cases, the company will build its own hardware. This happens time and again.
Yeah.
And what you have done, it was revealed late last month at your I/O conference, you have built your own processor.
Yeah, tensor processing unit.
They call it the TPU that executes deep learning algorithms, which we mentioned earlier today at the conference. And as you said, you're offering machine learning services as part of your cloud business. So if I'm, a random business on the other side of the world, can I take advantage of that TPU today?
Yeah, it's been in our data centers for at least a year now, and so it just depends what you're doing. But I mean, we have trained data that you can use: image recognition, speech translation. There's going to be more and more of that. And then if you actually want to run your own and train your own data, which we can help you do, we actually open source TensorFlow, which is the machine learning infrastructure that was used when we beat the Go world champion, same stuff. And so if you want to come on Google's cloud and use that and run it, we have a way to run it sort of super fast.
Got it.
Yeah.
So a lot of your infrastructure is general infrastructure, so to speak. I can run anything there.
But we will put you on the, we'll map you to where you should be running for what you're doing.
I see. Well, how big of a piece do you think, there's a lot of hype around machine learning, how big of a piece is that to the future, not just of Google, it's clearly a big part of Google, but to the average business that's going to be running on your infrastructure?
I mean, I think no matter what, people are going to want to use access to trained data. It's so valuable, right? You imagine you're building an app and you can just use speech recognition or image recognition. A lot of people are using the number of projects with and maps and weather and all these things that are make an application much richer. And then as people, with the cloud, you can bring all this data together and get these massive data sets. And as people kind of learn how to label the outcomes of their data and put their data together and have it be clean and know what they're trying to learn and then know how to incorporate it into their apps, I think it's going to be ubiquitous because it's insights that as humans we aren't able to have.
Right.
But we can control what we can get out of this, and it's it's a really step function change.
Right. And you could do all that with your own infrastructure, but I guess one of the advantages is you have so much of this stuff already built, right?
Well, we have data services with the APIs, and then we have the infrastructure, and then we have the underlying hardware to make it run fast, and it's just a very good environment for doing it if people want to, take advantage of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're willing, I thought we'd open up to questions from the audience, one or two, if we've got any. Right here.
Hey, it's Eric from Recode. Hello.
Hi there.
Hey, so I want to drill down on the TPU use. Do you imagine that's going to be more widely deployed throughout, say, Google Apps?
We have, it's being used in over 100 projects at Google already today. And we just continually announcing, we already had Smart Reply for Inbox, we have Habits in Calendar, we have visualization in our spreadsheet, and we just announced Search, where we can take all your documents and contextually the springboard. So everything we do now includes machine learning.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to double check that and make sure that's correct. But you're also offering this as a service, so if I want to build my own custom app, you'll help me do it. Okay.
That's
so
right.
it's a mixed cloud infrastructure play, but also for apps.
Yeah, I mean, Google's so committed to open, so we're open sourcing stuff, we're opening up our APIs, and the technologies that we're using ourselves, we're making available to everybody.
Do you think it's initially, the impression that I get, I just want your reaction to this, the impression I get is that the machine learning essentially takes a lot of repetitive duties off of us initially before it really does anything incredibly spectacular. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I think it's sort of a walk before you can
Well,
run
I mean, for instance, we use it in our data centers to reduce power consumption.
Okay.
So because we keep the data on the weather and the load and the cooling, and then we can, depending on what's happening in the weather or the load, we can adjust our pumps and anyhow the mechanical ways we do water cooling. Anyhow, we can adjust all that, and we're saving significant percentages in power, and that's machine learning. So that's not taking away repetitive stuff. It's making power savings possible that wouldn't be possible. And I think machine learning is going to be used in every industry to kind of help people do things way better than they used to do them.
I stand corrected on the spectacular part, so thanks.
Yeah.
Well said. I got time for one more if we've got one. In the back?
Hi, I've worked with suppliers in Missile Defense Agency. They have a question about cybersecurity, well, an issue right now. I wonder if, because they are a small group relative to some of your supply base or your customer base, if that might be a group you would work with?
We will work with anybody. So I don't know, but I know around security, we are trying to help other people. So our security people we meet with other companies all the time to try and help with best practices and help, we sort of view, Google's a pretty good citizen and tries to kind of help everybody do things better. And since we have unbelievable expertise in, we've been in the crosshairs of the best government hackers almost from day one, so we've gotten pretty good at it. So I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, there's obviously time limits. They got to do their job. So you have to sort of understand what you mean a little better. But
well, because I recognize they would be small relative to your normal.
Yeah.
What would be the entry point for them to make a contact?
I would probably come in through the people you can contact on the website. You want my email? I don't know.
Sure. Thanks.
All right, great. Let's give Diane a hand. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Diane, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.